Hey everybody, hopefully you can see me. I'm here. This is Jim Kielbaso. I'm here with Brad Leshinske and Kevin Hollabaugh. And we are really pumped that you guys are here. This is a crazy time. If you could, everybody who's with us right now, and it looks like the numbers are kind of going up fast. If you could go ahead and kind of figure out how this GoToWebinar app works for you, no matter whatever device you're using, and see if you can find the chat function. Hopefully you can hear me. Can you guys hear me, Kevin and Brad?
Yep. Definitely can hear you.
Kevin, can you say something so we can make sure we can hear you?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And I'll type in here, to see if everybody can hear me. See if you can locate that chat function. It's a little bit hard to see sometimes because it's very small, but if you guys could post something in there, that would be awesome, just so we know that people are hearing us. And we are going to get started as soon as we can here. So can anybody find that chat function besides me and type in that you can hear me? Because so far only Brad did. Oh, it's only sent to me. Oh, you only sent it to me, Brad. Okay, well, I'm going to assume everybody can. Go ahead.
I said there's a little box on the bottom that says organizer only, organizer panelists, and presenter only. Those are your three options for the chat box.
Oh, okay. So I put mine as entire audience. So hopefully everybody can see me. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. All right, well, I'm really glad that you guys are here. People are coming in right now, and we wanted to get together with everybody that is struggling right now because things are incredibly different than they were just only a couple weeks ago. As much as people may have seen this whole crisis kind of coming, I don't think 4 weeks ago, I don't think anybody really realized that we were going to be shut down for potentially, up to months. And some of you may have prepared better than others. What we decided to do is have two guys come on and share their experiences with us that have gone through a ton of things anyway in their careers and running their businesses. So who better to have on here than we've got Brad Leshinske, who owns Primetime Sports Performance outside of Chicago. He's in the red. And Kevin Hollabaugh, who runs Pro Force Sports Performance outside or in Cincinnati. He's there in the blue with the Bengals banner in the background that Brad wants to tear up. So guys, I think what we're gonna well played. I think what we're gonna do is get started here, but I just want to make sure that people on that are live with us right now are able to navigate through things, are able to hear, kind of what's going on, and like we are, and can maybe start sending some questions in as we go. We're not going to have any handouts or anything like that, so just go ahead and put your questions in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to necessarily communicate directly with us. So let's start out with Brad Leshinske from Primetime in Chicago, just kind of giving us a little bit of an overview of some of the things that you have gone through. I'm going to ask both of you guys this, some things that you've gone through in the last like 3 weeks, so pretty much since all of this really hit us square in the face. What are some of the steps you've taken, and what are you doing to kind of look to the future so that people can learn from you guys?
Yeah, sure. First off, I hope everybody's safe and healthy and families are doing okay. I know it's definitely a crazy time in not only our field, but in all fields, because I think there's a couple silver linings to look at. We're talking about cleanliness. We're talking about hydration and having better immune system. So I think there's some silver linings there. But for us, working at the high school, and we work with a volleyball club, about 550 athletes at the volleyball club, and we're working with about 700 athletes or so at the high school level. And the high school was pretty, I wouldn't say easy. They kind of had a foreshadowing of possible closures or suspension of games. So we worked pretty fast in making sure that we had a YouTube channel up for the athletes. We made sure that we had an at-home workout set and ready to go. And then we also had our coaching staff set ready to go with access to that online community. With that being said, Illinois High School Association stated no practice, no video, no nothing for the first week or so. But now they've let up on that. So they're able to do some conferencing with teams. And early on, I made sure to contact my coaches and let me in on those practices and or meetings. So every Wednesday, we have a meeting with all coaches and the AD where we sit down and we discuss what we need, what they need from me, what I need from them. We had our coaching staffs of the specific sport teams prep and ready at-home workouts for their specific sport skills. So as soon as we got kind of word that this virus was going to kind of infiltrate the season, we started putting those plans together. As far as adversity volleyball, that was a little different. That was a little harder to manage. We trained them out of a bigger name box gym, kind of like a health and rec center. So we were kind of at their mercy, and we were also at USA Volleyball's mercy. So USA Volleyball put sanctions on any volleyball activity, which impacted the place that we were working at because we were big money for them as far as renting out courts. But we were held off till originally April 8th. We are now being bumped to April 30th here in Illinois, and per USA Volleyball is bumping everything to July. So when we have the government restrictions in Illinois with the governor, we're also at the mercy of USA Volleyball because they see so many kids from out of state at these national tournaments. So it impacted the volleyball girls a little bit more than I would say the high school students that we deal with at the high school. So how we remedied that was, again, at-home workouts, but we also sent videos for them for things they can do, not only athletically, but more mental. I think imagery, some stuff to kind of calm them off the edge of being kind of bothered by the situation or anxious about the situation. Because some of these girls and even our high school kids have worked, for 4 years to get to the pinnacle of where they're at in their high school careers, and to see that kind of in question, they don't really know how to do that in their level of maturity. So giving them things that skills, like I said, visual things, and talking through how to do visualization was really key. And it's helped a lot of our volleyball athletes specifically because we have, 9 teams that are ready to go for national tournament in July, and that keeps getting bumped back. So it's keeping them motivated, it's keeping them interested in the training. The first week, everybody's always interested in training and keeping up, but it's what happens 3, 4, 5 weeks down the line to keep them motivated. So we have some videos ready to release with imagery, visualization, more of the mental aspect to keep them focused rather than just this, the lifting, and getting prepared physically. It's more mentally at this point.
So tell us a little bit about like how you reached out to coaches initially, like what was, when all this went down, Brad, what was the first thing you did? Like, did you contact coaches? How did you find out, that things were going to be closed, and, what was your initial plan?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of inside info due to me working at St. Xavier University, and we work in the School of Nursing and Health Sciences. So our nursing professors kind of had a heads up because of the hospitals of what was coming. So as soon as I found out that information and they were telling me like, hey, listen, there's going to be an announcement in a week or so about closures. I hit up my AD right away to be involved in any coaching meetings and sent an email to all the coaches stating whatever you guys need, some of your plans that you already have, and then I'll send my contingency plan for the athletes as well. Now, the volleyball was a little bit different. We practiced a little bit longer until USA shut us down. With that being said, I contacted the owners directly to make sure that we were all on the same page with any meetings. They created a new email address specifically just for this and a new YouTube page specifically just for this.
So did you actually create, like you mentioned that you created a YouTube page or a YouTube channel, did you actually create a YouTube channel for this for primetime sports performance, or are you utilizing the USA Volleyball or somebody else's, and what kind of stuff are you putting on there?
Sure. So we have one for Adversity Volleyball. That's the volleyball club that we work with. I have a separate channel for St. Lawrence strength and conditioning, and then I have my own under just my name, or Brad Leshinske. It was easier to upload and a lot faster than creating a primetime one. So the first thing I wanted to do was calm them off the ledge of understanding properties of physiology, right? So what do we immediately have to work on? What can we not be bothered with right away? And what do we lose over time? So the first video was kind of an overall, kind of a nerdy physiology video that I try to break down really easy of try to get them not to worry about losing all their endurance or losing certain properties of an athlete, because they're, you know, right away they're doing all this endurance training. And I'm like, guys, you slow down. So I put up a PowerPoint, presented it to them. It was about 25 minutes. Fielded any questions from the coaches, and then I put those answers into the video as well. So that was the first line. Yep.
What's the YouTube channel that you put that on, and is it available? Like, could other people see it and check out kind of what you do?
It's just YouTube my name, Brad Leshinske, and it'll pop up. All the videos are there. And then the second video is more of the at-home program, what we're going to do for them as athletes. Third, and it tied in a little bit of visualization. I just released another video today talking about plyometrics and some more power and strength application, because some of them, you know, I can see what they're doing. So some of them have kind of tailored off the jumping and speed stuff and kind of just telling them, hey, this is one property we still have to manage pretty closely rather than some aerobic training.
So can you talk about something else and how you're handling this? And then Kevin, you're going to be able to talk about this too in a minute. So something that I know that we're dealing with here in Michigan is that a lot of people are putting programs together, but like you just said, Brad, kids are out there just doing whatever, you know, and they're just running themselves in the ground instead of you know, doing things that maybe are going to work on speed and power and the things that we more typically would work on. Did you do a video did your video kind of address that, and how are you managing that kind of situation?
Sure. So yeah, I definitely addressed it. You know, I went through the whole physiological system of strength and power. You know, how many days can you kind of go without training that system versus where you start tapering off or losing some of those qualities. With that, how I built the at-home program was to address those things specifically and explain those things. I think a lot of athletes like to know the why behind things. So every time I do a video, I try to explain the why. Why are we doing this type of at-home workout versus, you know, burpees and mile run and doing these crazy circuits? So I went in and explained what circuits are, explained what HIIT training is, and all these different parameters and how they affect you as an athlete. For instance, the video I shot today and released today was how do we prepare now that we're out till April 30th, right? So now we're getting to those sports and that is going to affect those endurance type athletes. So soccer is one of those mix of power and endurance. So now I'm you know, creating a program. I said the next phase of your program is going to incorporate a little bit different qualities. While we're maintaining our strength and power, we now have to start introducing some endurance qualities, because we know we have about 30 days plus or minus a couple of days where we're going to lose those qualities. So while it wasn't important maybe 3 weeks ago, those qualities are starting to become even more important now.
So we're going to come back to you, Brad, but Kevin, I'd like to hear how you're addressing that, because looking at that Bengals thing up there, it just kind of hit me. I was on the phone today with one of your Bengals who was telling me about his workouts, and I said, dude, I sent you a workout. Like, this is what you should be worried about. You should be, you know, working on speed and power. And he was just out like obliterating himself and worried that his bench press numbers were going to go down, and because OTAs got backed up and, you know, freaking out about that kind of stuff. So with the younger kids, I'm guessing it's the same way. You know, like kids are just out there, you know, like doing what their moms and dads are doing just to kind of stay in shape. How are you handling that, Kevin?
Well, I mean, do you want me to back up and answer the question of what we were doing 3 weeks ago, or just take it from there?
Well, I'm going to keep going with Brad, but I just want to hear what
Okay.
how you're doing now.
The hardest thing is like most people don't have anything at home. Yeah, Dick's is out of weights. I got people asking me left and right to rent equipment. I'm not doing that because I don't know what you're going to do to my equipment. I paid you money for it. We hook them up with like our vendors to see if they can get products. But to your point, most people can do a good hit workout at home. They can't do a strength-based workout. So for us, it's been playing with tempo variations, like doing an eccentric isometric, breaking it down that way. So instead of having to do like 50 body weight squats before they feel a burn, okay, let's use some sort of tempo in it to get it more quasi strength based. And I mean, if you're underneath a bunch of stress, we don't need to do a hit style workout anyways, right? I already have high cortisol. So I mean, you can go into the science of it, but it's getting the athletes what they actually need and finding ways to be creative. Like today, I just saw one of my buddies posted a workout video, and he was using a towel that he made into a TRX on a door. I was like, that's freaking genius. How did I not think about that? But so that's definitely gonna be in tomorrow's workout. But or it's like using a backpack. Everybody's got a backpack. Okay, throw a bunch of books in it. Now instead of using body weight, now we can use a backpack to do a bunch of stuff. Just getting really creative with athletes. And I mean, there's a lot of athletes, even though here in Ohio everything's shut down, that are like, hey, I found a gym, or like, hey, I found this, I found where they store some equipment, or that are sneaking in and getting different places. And if you have equipment, we can tailor it. Similar, without going down too much of a rabbit hole, we do the same thing Brad does. We've used Train Heroic for years. So we have 300 athletes / clients that are live right now with programs through that. It's just been really easy. And same thing as Brad, we support a very large high school, and each one of those teams, very quickly, it was, the infrastructure was already there. I wasn't starting from scratch. Like since 2014, we've been using this stuff. So it was easy to just go. But each one of the teams for the high school has their own workout on the app. Similar to Brad, we can push communication, talking to the AD right away. So I won't go too much further, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, you can have your turn in a minute.
Okay.
So Brad, you know, how have you gotten people to continue paying you that are on, you know, they pay probably a monthly fee. Is that accurate? Like your volleyball clubs in high schools. Now that you can't deliver what you're used to delivering or what they're used to delivering, like have you had those conversations like, hey, keep sending the checks, and you know, how's that going?
Sure. The way we structure the high school is they pay us a salary kind of every month. So you know, it's asking, just being honest and transparent. I have really good relationships with the AD and the president. Those are my bosses there. And it was just like, hey, I know this is a tough question to ask in this uncertain time, but you know, are you able to still provide us with, you know, money a month, you know, our contract? And totally understandable if they couldn't. I mean, they're a private school. They're based off of tuition. Things are going to get all juggled around with regards to what if people can't pay their tuition, and you know, some other loans, and the way they get help for the students. So I knew that going in, but it's one of those tough questions to ask, and their, you know, their response was absolutely. All the videos you're shooting, you know, ADs and presidents like to see effort. They like to see care, you know, and adaptability. So we knew we were in this situation. It was, how was I going to adapt and make sure that my athletes and their athletes are still getting proper communication? On the volleyball side of things, we have a boys season and a girls season. So we bill separately for each. And right now we're 3 months into the girls season, or 4 months into the girls season. And so we were able to hold off charging them for the girls because we're still finishing up with the boys teams. And now we're retro charging them. But again, I asked the owners straight up front, you know, I'm going to be billing you X amount of money. Let me know if you can't fulfill that, because I have to let my team know. And as soon as they said yes, I let my team know, hey, you guys will still be getting paid per our contracts. All my workers are 1099 guys. They're all contract employees. But I pay them each a set amount a month, and that's how they live. I mean, they're young guys. One's 26, one's 22. And so we want to make sure that they're getting taken care of. And we also have a little nest egg, and that's important for business owners to understand, is you don't want to, you know, spend all your money a month and things are tight. You got to learn how to cut, where to cut, and how to cut things out. You know, for instance, we work with some great vendors. We work with Hawking Dynamics for force plates, in which we just bought a set. So yeah, I'm paying down that bill, and that's an honest conversation to have with them. Hey, is there anything you guys can do on your end? We purchased a Rapsodo for the baseball program at the high school. You know, that's a monthly that comes out, and Rapsodo has been generous in saying, hey, do what you can. You know, so it's just having these conversations upfront early, in case the worst scenario happens. You got to plan for the worst case scenario and plan for the best case scenario. So you got to be able to plan and kind of, I wouldn't say look ahead, but just plan ahead. Just
Yeah, so I know that when Kevin gets his turn, he's going to talk about like cutting expenses and some of those things, but it sounds like some great advice, like, hey, start looking at, you know, looking at all the expenses that you have and where can you go, you know. And I would think that we need to almost compare this to our own home budgets. You know, like if you know your rent or your mortgage payment is coming up and you don't have the income, you got to call your bank, or you got to call the rental agency or whoever it is to at least make arrangements. If you don't have money to pay your credit cards, you're going to have a minimum payment due, or you're going to have something, you know, like you got to figure that out. So I'm guessing that that's what you guys both did.
first thing I did. Yeah, first thing I did was look at some monthly subscriptions I have for certain products that we use, right? Whether it's membership subscriptions and stuff that I could cut out immediately. At, hey, if I don't do this for a month or two or three, is it really going to hurt my business? You know, and that right there saved me $300-400 a month. You know, just cutting out stuff that we have where I might give it to my employees or interns as like cool educational material. But hey, do we need that right now? No, right now we need money in the bank to pay everybody. So it's looking at those first line things before you start cutting out the big stuff. You know, all that little stuff adds up.
Yeah. Not that you would ever stop your IYCA Insider subscription.
This is correct.
Well, you know, what's funny is that actually a lot of people have signed up for Insiders and bought in. You know, we have intentionally not like tried to push any IYCA materials yet. We're going to do some sort of a special, but I didn't want people to think like, oh, you know, people are trying to capitalize on this thing. But people are sitting around. Some people are sitting at home, not able to do anything, and a lot of people want educational materials. So I think that there are people out there that are thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna get myself better. You know, kind of making plans and setting some goals. So speaking of setting goals and that kind of thing, you've got a little different situation than Kevin in that all of your people are 1099 employees. How are you keeping those you know, staff members motivated when, you know, they're thinking the same thing as everybody, like what's going to happen tomorrow, what's the next day, you know, things change every single day. So what are you doing to kind of keep them motivated?
For me, it's meetings. We'll have weekly meetings. I've given them tasks to do. So I gave my head strength coach over at the high school. He's going to be starting to shoot 2 or 3 technique videos a day and sending those out, sending them to me, and I could upload those. Mo, who is my head strength and conditioning guy at the volleyball, he was over at the office yesterday cleaning up. He's taking pictures. We're going to update the website, update some, you know, writings and articles that we need done, update some pricing stuff that we do out there, like massage therapy and stuff like that. So now is a really good time to do housekeeping. I know it sounds boring and monotonous, but like at the high school, we have to go in there and take all the excess weights out of the like wrestling room, and we're going to sell that stuff. But it's, you know, it's good housekeeping time. We are allowed as administrators into the high school and also in adversity, so we can do some of that stuff. So that's coming this week, and making sure that we have the house in order when everybody comes back.
Well, I don't even know if you have to call it just housekeeping. You hear a lot of times in business talks, you can either work in your business or work on your business. And for us, working in your business is doing the training and, you know, making the phone calls every day, like doing things that just have to be done. But working on your business is thinking a little bit beyond that, like what bigger things need to be done that can set you up for success down the road. And that's all we're concentrating on right now is like developing relationships, you know, getting everything ready for when we reopen. And it sounds like you're doing some of the same things, like, okay, all the things that you normally don't have time to do, but you know are important, and maybe should have been done before, now you can work on some of those things. So that's a great way to keep your staff motivated. How are you keeping them employed though? Like, so are you getting enough revenue from these clubs and coach and schools that that you're able to maintain their employment like regular? And one more thing.
Yeah, we
talk about how you're able to employ them as 1099 employees versus like being a W-2, like a regular employee.
Yeah, the state of Illinois is obviously super duper expensive, specifically Cook County, but I've always maintained, try to keep them at 1099 so they have some flexibility in their schedule. The law here is if you give them certain times that they have to be there for X amount of hours a week, they're considered an employee. So I usually ask them what's their schedule availability for the week. I allow them to have other jobs. I want them to grow their own name and their own brand. And I think it's really restrictive sometimes if they're W-2. So I want them to grow as professionals. I get a lot of young coaches, so I want to foster that as much as possible. And then, keeping them paid what they're actually getting normally, that does come down to my vendors and making sure that they're paying us. We're lucky. They have, club volleyball is a very lucrative club to be a part of. And they're and most of those kids pay up front. I pay monthly dues, so we're able to invoice them and get that money that we are able to get. The high school is a set salary per month, so they're just paying us our normal salary, which I divvy up to my head coach and any other workers I have that come in. We have a couple part-timers that come in as well.
So I think something that you just said was really important, and Kevin has a different approach to his employees that are not 1099 employees. Everybody out there, if you're going to be doing having 1099 employees, you have to make sure that they are doing other things. And just like Brad said, you have to make sure that they are expanding themselves as professionals and being kind of entrepreneurial. So things that the IRS is going to look at is, do they have their own website? Do they have their own, do they do other things? Are their schedules set? Do they have to attend regular meetings? Do they have to do reports based on what you need? Or are they coming in for certain jobs and they're telling you what they can do? What other clients do they have? And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same profession or the same exact thing, but they need to be able to show that they're doing things outside of what you're doing. So as long as you kind of are up to the codes, you can get away with doing that, and then you don't have to pay the payroll taxes. They have to then make sure that they're keeping enough money set aside to pay their taxes at the end of the year, because they are going to get hit, and they have to be ready for that. Kevin has taken a different approach that I know he's going to talk about in a minute, because we've talked about this. But if you're going to 1099 people, just make sure that you kind of have that. The IRS and I'm sure your local governments have 1099 worksheets, which answer a bunch of different questions, or you have to answer them for them, that include everything that I just kind of talked about. And if you can get them to open up a website, have an LLC. If they have their own LLC, it's like so much easier. So if you can get them to file the paperwork to have their own LLC and you pay the LLC, it's a much different kind of situation for everybody. And some people are scared of that because, like Brad said, you're encouraging them to have their own business within your business. Other people think like, well, if they have their own business and they're working for me, that's even better because I get to take advantage of all the clout that they're establishing, and I'd rather have somebody that's an amazing professional that everybody wants than somebody that nobody knows about. And you'll have to decide, what works for you, but just make sure this now is a good time to look into that on how you're going to 1099 versus employ somebody. Brad, is there anything else that you've done over the last couple weeks, or things that you're doing now to keep yourself relevant so that you're maybe looking forward to reopening and having even a bigger audience?
Yeah, up north where we have adversity volleyball. So we're inside of about a 60,000 square foot facility for volleyball. So per our contract, we obviously train all adversity volleyball athletes, but then we were able to also offer sports performance as a separate kind of a money thing coming in. So it's really revamping and now preparing for the summer and really looking for June and July to really launch our sports performance camps that we haven't been able to do yet because we've been so busy. Like you said, it's working in the business and working, you know, outside the business as well, and making sure we're prepped and ready to go. Because the gym is beautiful, and that was part of him doing all the housekeeping yesterday and last week and over the weekend, and getting those pictures set, getting pricing set, and then when we're ready to launch, we're ready to go without any hiccups. And the high school side of thing, inside the high school, again, it's not only cleaning that stuff out, but now, you know, coming up with different testing protocols, making sure things are in line with the teams when they come back. As far as we're probably going to have to retest everybody to get another baseline and profile those athletes a little bit differently because of the inability to have weights at home or the ability to have weights at home, and who has followed the program and who has not. So dealing with the high school kids right now is much like dealing with a college kid going away for the summer. Is he or she lifting, or are they not lifting? So it's important to understand that.
Cool. All right, so some great stuff. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. Let's switch over and let's let Kevin talk about what he's done over the past couple weeks to trim some fat. I know you've taken some dramatic actions that I think some people are going to be very interested in, and then you can project forward to what you're doing to get ready to reopen.
Yeah, so I kind of like Brad, I kind of saw this coming, and we were trying to be very proactive the whole time, like limiting our class sizes, and then it came down, I think it was like March 13th for us or something like that. It came down that gyms were going to close, and there's mass panic as to, am I a gym? I train small groups, like I'm not an actual health club. This doesn't make any sense. And I think honestly, the first day or two was just like sheer panic and scrambling, calling health departments to figure out if I could stay open. And the nice thing was we have, similar to Brad, like we've run everything so we have a nest egg, right? I have about 2 months buffer in the bank that if I don't bring any income, never thought I'd have to use it, but thank God it's there. So really, that same day when I'm trying to figure out if we can stay open or not, I'm also calling people and trying to trim fat as quickly as possible. So knowing we may not be able to bring in revenue for X amount of days, right? And I think we all thought, okay, 2-week quarantine, we'll move on from there. And honestly, we're probably not going to open until June 1st. If everybody wants to be honest with themselves, it's probably not going to be June 1st. So look at everything and figure out, if I have to open on June 1st, what has to happen? Like if we're being 100% transparent, never thought I was going to have to close. I'm looking at it as a June 1st thing now from everything that I'm reading, whether you agree with it or not. Like it's just an acceptance thing. And I think for us, step one was we were in a different situation than what Brad's describing too, because as I told you over the phone, Jim, we had just signed a lease to move into a bigger space. I have 25 grand worth of equipment sitting on pallets that I haven't opened at that space. I have the rubber coming in sometime this week. So I'm in a kind of a bind, but at the same time, the first call I made was to my equipment vendor, the lease company that I leased it through. And I said, what can I do about my leases? I'm closed. And she goes, let me call them. So we filled out the paperwork to get 2 to 3 months deferred. And it's having those phone calls right away. The next phone call was landlord. All right, what can we do here? And he assured me 100%. We have a great relationship. He's like, you're my best partner I've had. Don't want you going anywhere. Don't worry about a thing. But it's just having those open conversations with people. It called the credit card company. Similar to Brad, I was looking at all my monthly like reoccurring subscriptions. What can go? What a lot of them can. And then unfortunately for us, like you were saying, we don't have independent contractors. So for me, when I run payroll, we have 7 employees. So for us, that adds up to a hefty payroll tax. And you were even surprised, like our payroll tax is well over $1,000 every run. So that's $2,000 a month there. So I looked at who are my essential staff, versus kind of who will help me through this pandemic the most. Kind of hate to trim it that way. So we just went hourly staff, furloughed them. They all know they have their jobs back as soon as this is done. We set them up with unemployment. I sent them out the instructions for it. Our state has a pandemic code that has to go on their form, which I didn't find out about until yesterday. So I feel like a jackass for that, but good finding out. But just helping them through the steps. Like one of my hourly coaches who was furloughed, her apartment complex has been giving her kind of shit that she can't pay rent. So I find the number for her to call the corporate to find out. So it's like helping out the employees so they know that we're still with them, staying in touch with them, the ones that we have furloughed. And then my salary director, who he's staying on board, he's kind of my remote person. So he's running all of our online training programs. A big thing, if nobody's done it yet, I don't know why, but like we printed out our list using our software of who's been a client for us for the last 2 months. All right, we're calling each one of those clients. We're figuring out, how are you doing? How's your training been? Because similar to what most people experienced is, as soon as this thing hit, you got a bunch of emails and text messages, put my membership on hold. And we run pretty much month to month. We're not like 12-week block here, 12-week block here. I've always operated on the premise, like, if I don't earn your business this month, you have no right to pay me next month. And our retention is anywhere from 9 months to 15 months. So it's not like I'm losing. But it's going back through the list now and saying, okay, you're 2 weeks into this now. Do you want me to write your program? So those people that kept their memberships live, they're getting the programs. So that's one way where we kind of differentiate it there, is like, okay, if you're keeping your membership live, we're calling you, we're setting up coaching calls. Because I think the biggest piece right now is, like we discussed on here, is you want to make sure that you're connecting with them. You want to make sure that you're still coaching them, right? And it's this is social interaction now, what we're doing right now. This is it. And so it's, how can I still, they came there for you. Like, your facility may look immaculate, that's awesome, but at the end of the day, they came there for you to coach them, to be part of your program. So like, I was just texting, I was on a group chat with some of our adult clients, and I tried to throw some of them under the bus. I said, what do you guys need to do to be like Eric, who's using the app, versus you guys who put your membership on hold? Why'd you put it on hold? And I appreciated the blunt answer of, I go to your gym for the equipment, I go to your gym for the social interaction, and I go to your gym for the coaching. And they go, unfortunately, a Zoom call doesn't satisfy my 1 and 2 needs. And I just threw it out there. I was like, what if we do a Zoom workout as adults? And this can be our social. And he goes, I don't know about that. But it's asking the clients the hard questions, like, okay, why'd you put it on hold? How can I help you continue to be our client through this whole thing? Like, what value can I give you? And similar to Brad, it's like with our high school, like right away, talk to the AD, because that's a big chunk of money for us. That can still bring in some revenue and help pad the nest egg a little bit every month. And okay, what can I do for you? Well, I don't know right now. Let me figure it out. And then he gets back to me, and I go, okay, well, how about we get each team set up on the app? The coaches have been thrilled. They're like, oh my God, this is great. I can communicate with my team through the app now. I can see who's doing workouts, who's not. And it's been a great win. Similarly, like our, just had the conversation today. So some of this is delayed because honestly, Brad and Jim, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been this busy in a long time. Like, my time goes by like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way. The days just are flying by. Yeah.
It's like phone call. You're just answering emails, trying to get content out there. And I mean, lucky for us, it's all built. God help the people who don't have the video libraries. Like, we've had a video library through Vimeo forever. I went that route versus the YouTube because it's more password protected and I can hide stuff because I didn't want it all out there. And then it's just managing all the clientele. Like, the amount of kids who can't use the app is ridiculous. Like, my workout's not there. Scroll to the next day. Oh, it's there. There you go. So it's just like stuff like that that's just taking chunks out of your time. But I mean, we trimmed fat. We trimmed fat fast. And it was just, the first week was just setting everything up, figuring out what I needed to do. We don't have an accountant, but I use a bookkeeper. So immediately I'm calling her saying, how long do you think the nest egg's going to last? What else do I need to cut? How long can I keep my salaried employee on before I need to furlough them? What do you think's the right time for that? And I mean, just keeping everybody as busy as possible. Even our hourly employees, I told them, I was like, if you feel like you have sufficient amount of work, then don't go on unemployment, and I will push you stuff to do. Like our marketing manager, facility manager, she's still doing stuff all the time for us. But so she's the only hourly one that's kind of stayed. And to Brad's point versus the employee versus the 1099, we had everybody 1099 about a year ago. And then I sat down and looked at everything, and it was like, okay, well, I'm scheduling them when to be here. We have weekly meetings. I'm telling them what to do. This doesn't really define independent contractor as much as I want to save on payroll. But at the end of the day, it was just a bullet I had to bite. And for us, it's kind of become a nice thing because people can see trajectory and growth throughout the business. Like, I want to get to be the assistant director. I want to be the director of this, and it's just employee growth there. What didn't I touch on?
So Kevin, along those lines, I mean, you've been paying unemployment, taxes and payroll taxes for a while now. So did you go on to, you're in Ohio, so did you go to on like ohio.gov, I assume is what it is? Like, that's kind of what it is for us here, to figure out how to to help your employees file for unemployment. And then you also have applied for a small business association loan that the government is now making at least available for us to apply for. Can you talk about those two processes? Because a lot of people here may be eligible, or at least eligible to apply for those small business loans that could help them offset a lot of their costs over the next month or two.
Yeah. So my bookkeeper mentioned to me right away that I needed to do the SBA. And the reason being is she wanted me to try to get like 4 months revenue just to pad everything. Then if what I didn't need, I could kind of just say I don't want. Unfortunately, that's not how it's done after diving into this. And I started this process the week it was announced, and the application is 1,000 times easier. It literally took me 6 days to fill out 7 pages of the online application because it was so cumbersome. And then I was really mad when I had 1 page left, couldn't log in for a week because they were changing it. I log in and I have to reapply, and it was literally like 4 questions. And if you don't apply for this loan, guys, I don't know what you're not thinking, because you get a $10,000 grant by checking a box and filling out the application. A $10,000 grant. So it's not even, so even if you don't apply, maybe
All right, so say it again, and this is for somebody who has a bricks and mortar business, correct? And
right.
Where do they go, and what do they? Not everybody here is going to qualify for this, maybe, but what do they have to do? Like, what did you do?
So if you own a business that has been directly affected by the coronavirus, all right. So if your business has been shut down by your local government in some way or fashion, if you own an LLC, you have to be incorporated. That's a catch-all. You have to be incorporated, and you have to be incorporated as of, I believe it was February of this year. So if you're incorporated before then, you technically qualify, and if your business has been shut down and you have lost revenue because of it. So it's the SBA disaster assistance loan, or whatever, however you want to call it. You go to sba.gov. There's a big highlight at the top. You click on that. It takes you to the application. Application is super easy. At the end of the application, now, the only revenue number you need now, so before I had to upload so much stuff, the only revenue number you need is your revenue over the last 12 months.
That's
so you take your gross revenue. You don't even know net, just gross revenue. So you take the gross revenue. What they're going to do is they're going to look at your gross revenue for the last 12 months. They're going to divide that by 12, and then they're going to offer you a loan of 2.5 times that. Does that make sense? That's how they're coming up with the total of which they're giving out. That number is up to $2 million per business. You have 30 years to repay this loan at an interest rate of 3.75. So if you just go to loan calculator online and figure out what your 2.5 times might be. So for me, it's roughly about $300 a month over 30 years that we would be repaying this loan. Now, I don't want to be 63 repaying on this loan. So the unclear part of this whole thing that I'm still trying to get answers on is there's now the payroll protection loan, which you have to go through your bank to get, where the SBA disaster loan is purely through the government and the SBA.com. It's like you can't apply for it through your bank. What my understanding is the payroll protection, anything you use on rent, payroll, or like qualified expenses, that portion of that loan gets forgiven. The caveat of that is if what you don't spend, you then have to pay 4% interest rate on over 10 years. So it's a much higher monthly payment. So if you're looking at this now with the SBA disaster loan, I don't have to make a payment on that for a full calendar year from when I receive it. And I end up with a much lower repayment plan over X amount of years. That there's, because of the disaster, there's no repayment pill. I can pay it early, unlike normal SBA loans. Normal SBA loan is a 30-year term and you can't pay it back early. With this one, you can. And then what I haven't gotten clearance on, it's very iffy, is if I can use the SBA loan for payroll and other expenses, and that portion of it gets forgiven, which I think from what I've read so far, it looks like that is true. But don't take my word for that yet.
Yeah, and it looks like some people are putting in the chat that you're able to use the SBA loans for debt relief for a period of 6 months. So debt relief meaning, if you have debt on maybe it's a lease or a mortgage, probably your staffing, probably equipment. So it's not like they're just handing out money,
Right.
like for revenue. They're helping you with your debt relief, and then you're going to be able to, like you said, Kevin, potentially have up to 30 years to repay it. So everybody has to weigh the pros and cons there. Like, can you make it without this? Can you not? Like how, should you apply for this? Do you have a couple months in the bank, or can you cut some people or some expenses now and make it through, and hopefully we're reopened in a few or several weeks, like that. You have to decide. But if you haven't gone on to that, you said it was sba.gov. You might as well look on there just to see if you qualify.
You might as well honestly apply, because at worst, it doesn't ding your credit score for applying. You get approved and you get the money, or you have to be down the waiting list because you waited 2 to 3 weeks. So I think, like, Brad and I have a nest egg, but I've already applied for it with the assumption of this could carry out to June. Now we have to look at what does the economy look like in June, not to be doom and gloom, but I mean, how many people can afford training in June because of all the crap that just happened? So your ramp up may be rampant, or it may be this slow trickle. Like we normally have 200 active members a month. So I need it to get to that. I'm going to struggle at X bringing staff back on, and you just got to look at it that way. I mean, I don't understand why you would wait and then end up in a position where you're like, oh man, I need money, but now I have nothing in the bank at all. So, I mean, you kind of want to prepare ahead of time, which luckily, Brad, you did the same thing. And kind of going to another thing I wanted to touch on is like this uncertainty of what is going to happen, right? Like we're all freaking out because our business has changed, right? Everything's changed. Everything for everybody has changed. And when, I don't know how many people on this call own their own businesses, but like when Brad opened a business, when you started with the Total Sports Complex, when I opened ProForce, we all went out on a limb and had uncertainty. We didn't know that. I didn't know my business was going to grow into what it is today. Like I would have laughed at you if you would have told me it was going to. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, we all envision something big and grand and want to get there, but there's the uncertainty of getting there. So now it's just your uncertainty's changed. Like, how are you going to take this time and make it be productive? And that's what I've really taken the angle of doing this last week and a half that has really helped us. So do you have your, like Brad was saying, do you have systems in place? If not, work on it. Do you have time? Or just find out different ways to make your business better or your training methodology better right now. Or, I mean, if you do have a bunch of free time right now, then honestly, you're probably doing something drastically wrong. So,
I mean, Kevin, I think that's great advice, and I mentioned to you that to you before the call because I mean, I remember having those exact conversations with you personally, like years ago about, should I do this? Should I do that? I have this opportunity. I have that opportunity. Should I buy some equipment? Should I move? You know, like you're going to move your family. Should I invest in this? Should I sign this contract with this this soccer club and that group that you were looking at years ago? You know, putting your place in that building. I mean, you made so many choices that you know, now people just have to go back to that. They have to think like, okay, I'm starting a new business. You know, what am I going to do? And that's essentially what people are doing. Hopefully, you know, in 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks, we're back to what we're doing. So I think what a lot of people's questions are like, okay, well, what are we doing then to, you know, to just kind of get, are we just getting by? Are we starting new businesses, or are we getting ready for the next phase? And you kind of addressed some of those. I've had some questions because I don't want to go on too long with this, but I had some questions about like, okay, some people don't know about the apps. There was a question about how do you create your own app? Is it really expensive? I know both of you guys have used Train Heroic for years. We've used Train Heroic for years. There are other platforms out there. You could use Google Docs and just send people links. You could use Excel spreadsheets. You could FaceTime with people. My advice would be, do not try to create your own app. That is completely not what you should be doing right now. Go to trainheroic.com. Yeah, you know, like they've got a 14-day trial. You could sign up and get people going. Get on Google Docs and Google Sheets. FaceTime people. Get in touch with people to see if they want what you're currently offering, and start to figure out what you can charge. People were asking that question too. How much do you charge for this online training, and is it the same thing? And I've got that question for both of you guys. And Kevin, you kind of addressed it. People are kind of thinking, well, one, they don't know if they're going to have their same income because a lot of people are losing their jobs. So I've heard other trainers say, well, we're creating the same amount of value that we've always have because we're providing training for you all the time. Part of me feels like, I don't know. Are you, like, you don't have a facility, you're not in there. If you're training athletes, it's a little different because you can't provide the instant feedback on what they're doing. So how are you guys pricing things? Forget about the teams, forget about the volleyball clubs, forget about the coach, you know, the schools. How are you providing things for individuals, and what are you charging them right now?
Yeah, so anybody who kept their package active, it is what it is. We're not doing anything. For those people that we're trying to spin up new business with our online portal through Train Heroic, we're going 120 for 8 weeks. That's how we're doing it. Because honestly, once you get in the Train Heroic and you make it, it's super easy. It doesn't take you that much time. I'm looking at it as a value exchange. Like, you have to look at this right now as, like, I don't know about Brad, but like, we've always wanted to do more with our online portal and do more remote-based training. This is an opportunity. This is a golden time for us to learn how to do that, get our shit together for it, and go with it and run with it. And that's what we're using it as right now. Like, there's opportunities in every crisis, and that's what we're trying to look at this as right now. So that's one way we're doing it. We're reaching out to new clubs and teams and saying, hey, if you need this, here's value right now. All right, we'll give it to you for free. And then when the doors open, hopefully there's more people who have experienced Pro Force and want to continue to train with us.
Yeah, I've actually had multiple groups contact me just in the last 48 hours asking, what can you do for us now? Knowing kind of that it's going to be a little bit less expensive, but they don't know what to do for kids. What about you, Brad? What are you doing in that regard?
I'm doing $60 a month. Pretty simple for individuals. So I have quite a few MMA guys. I have longstanding clients. We have some sports performance kids that we run out of our North facility that have requested some online training. So we just charge them $60 a month. I use Screencast-O-Matic. It's a great software. It's relatively cheap, but that shoots MP4 videos where we can do a bunch of stuff. And actually, that's where I shoot most of my PowerPoints and everything with. But we do educational stuff for them as well for each of the athletes, kind of explaining the program and the why. Remember, anytime we're dealing with youth athletes, we're really talking to the parents as well. So I think that's important that we don't just keep the athlete in mind. We also have to keep the parent in mind who's actually paying us and providing that service for their child. So we still try to keep in contact with that parent.
We are doing 3 different levels of programming. We're doing a team or a school level type of like a group program. We're doing an individual customized program that's similar to what you were saying, Brad. And then we're also creating on Train Heroic. You can create like, I'll call them like templates or stock programs. And you can put them on a marketplace and people can just go to it and they get it. And it's, you could say, here's your 6-week speed program, or here's your 6-week body weight training program. You create it once, they get that. You don't have to do anything else about it. And we're charging much less for that. That's only $30 a month. So we're kind of trying to tier it right now. And we're just getting this started. So I don't know if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the high school teams that we work with and the adversity volleyball teams, they obviously don't get charged at all. So we provide them whatever they need. As long as obviously we're getting paid to do it, we're still providing a service for them.
So we have this person's asking a question. What's your recommendation for getting high schools and how to overcome the high school ego? And given that most seasons are going to be canceled, coaches are going to be looking for something. So yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting time, and let's get your feedback on this. A lot of coaches, let's call them sports coaches in general, I don't know if it's an ego or an apprehension to use a training service like what you guys offer. Right now, they don't have anything else. They don't know. I feel like maybe some doors are open, or at least some barriers are knocked down, because you might be able to provide them with something that they simply can't do. Have you thought about how you're going to take advantage of that? We have a little bit by opening things up to some groups and teams, just putting it out there. What have you guys done?
How we landed St. Lawrence High School is we created a video presentation for them and a PowerPoint presentation for them. So we have that stock presentation set and ready to go for anybody. We worked with Stevenson High School early on. We were contracted by another company to actually help fulfill the strength and conditioning for them. But we have this stock PowerPoint that I created that explains who we are as a company and different ways that they can incorporate us into their high school, whether it's team by team, whether it's me bringing a full team on, or if it's just remote programming. So we have those 3 options available. But like I said, all we do is really change the first page of that PowerPoint to that high school that we want to promote ourselves to. And then we just go through our PowerPoint presentation. We've had a couple people contact us. The current high school that we're at, we do have a non-compete within a 10-mile radius. Obviously, we don't compete with anybody else within our conference. Now, but we've had a couple people outside that conference really ask us, hey, do you have time to talk? Especially with the baseball program, we get a lot of baseball coaches that ask us about, how we can fulfill their strength and conditioning needs. But yes, as you said, a lot of the high school coaches, sport coaches, still are kind of resistant to bringing the strength and conditioning staff on, in fear of losing trust with their athletes, not being part of something. I think is a big hurdle for them. And again, we see that mostly in football. We see that still a pretty big blockade between the strength coach and the football strength coach. But it's starting to come down, around, actually in my area, we have a lot more qualified strength and conditioning coaches inside the high school realm. So it's fun competing with them. You know, I know most of them, and when we actually play each other and stuff, it's actually fun. It's almost like on the college level where you know them people. So we're seeing that. There's a lot of work to be done with that regard, but yeah, I think creating a PowerPoint presentation that outlines your business, your mission, your core values, who you are as a coach, and what you can do for them. Remember, you're servicing them, and it's what stuff you can take off their plate. And for instance, the high school we're at now, my biggest drive was you guys can recruit now. You can actually be coaches who recruit. We're a private school, so they need kids, they need butts in the door. And now that opened up them actually going out and servicing those grammar school functions that they couldn't otherwise do. So that was a big thing for us, was saying, hey, off the plate, man, you don't have to be here as coaches. You know, some coaches love peeking their heads in, obviously seeing what their guys are doing. But a lot of that time they're out there recruiting those 6th, 7th, 8th graders to come to our, you know, in the last 2 years, we've seen enrollment up, you know, 30, 40, 50 kids. We're the highest on the south side of Chicago right now as far as enrollment for Catholic school, which is pretty cool. We had 266 this year. I think last year we had 245. So they can see that benefit. Now we're running kid camps for teams that run out of St. Lawrence, and then it's marketing to them and those coaches. So that's how we're bringing extra revenue in on top of what we're getting paid.
Well, you know, I think that that's a great way to look at things. And then maybe we kind of all get stuck thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? What are my problems? And I just got to worry about me. But we took a step back and thought about, like, okay, what are the problems that kids are having? What are they missing? They don't get to be with their teams. They don't get to communicate with each other. They get no competition. They're not getting the same amount of fun because all they can do is like talk online. And, you know, so we've created competitions. Like we're creating a competition that's going to be small teams, and they get to work together, and it's going to be kind of all over the place. Look for that coming up soon. But like you said, think about other people's problems. Like all these private schools, whether you, I don't care how you feel about private versus public schools. I don't care how you feel about, you know, anything. Look at people's problems. These private schools are probably freaking out right now, thinking, oh my God, our enrollment is going to tank if the economy tanks. Like, maybe that's true. Is there something you can do? If you work with a private school, is there something you can do to tell them, like, hey, we're going to help you with that? Is there something that you can do for clubs? Like, I'm guessing a lot of clubs are thinking the same thing. Like, if the economy drops, are our tryouts in June going to be low? Are there things that you can do for these clubs to say, like, hey, we'll give you something, or we'll help you, or we'll push people your way, or I don't know, you know, talk to them about that and put it out there that you're willing to help them, because that can generate a lot of goodwill, that, you know, to help them or to get them to want to maybe work with you in the future.
Another thing would be discount your services off the top of the bat for some relief, you know, of expenses right off the top of the bat. You know, whether it's, you know, we get hired a lot to come in and do testing for teams and global teams, and come in and we do, you know, maybe 200 kids at once, or we get contracted by a bunch of people to do that. And it's like, hey, you know, instead of doing $10 an athlete, you know, because of the situation, we'll do like $5 a kid or $7 a kid, you know, and that's a good way to just drum up business. And hey, these guys were really good, you know. Not only that, they give us a discount because of the situation we were in. Again, attending to their needs.
Yeah. So we are just over an hour now. We'll try to wrap this up because people are gonna go to dinner and whatnot. So do you guys have any kind of last words of wisdom that you want to share with people, and or any advice, anything you haven't said yet?
Just figure out how you can still coach, how you can still connect with them. So I know something we didn't get to that you wanted me to is, like, we've been doing Instagram live sports performance sessions. That's turning into, for our club teams, next week we're doing Zoom calls with them, because I can get up to 100 people on one Zoom call for free. That way we'll have one coach watching the Zoom call while we demo and coach the demo. And then that way that coach that's watching the Zoom call can give them feedback by watching their video feed. If I'm on Instagram live, I can't watch them. Honestly, when we're doing it, you feel like Richard Simmons, give them a workout video First one I did it by myself. Terrible idea, doing 45 minutes of a workout by yourself while trying to talk. Hard. So today I had another coach with me. We alternated as to who was demoing, who was coaching. I'm just coaching the demo as if the athlete's right there in front of me. So we're counting out reps. I'm telling them when to go. So people on the Instagram calls are doing the same thing. And we've gotten really great feedback from that so far. And it's one of those things, like, there's people on those calls who have never been to Pro Force before. So in this last 2 weeks, we've been shut down. Our Instagram following has gone up by over 200 people just because of the amount of digital content that we're pushing out there. We have a daily, what we call our quad workout, or quarantine at home workout, that everybody's been doing. So it's up to you as to what you want to do. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I had this pulled up. So like next week, we're going to a dedicated schedule. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So it's like we have the platform it's going to be on, what it's going to be, at what time it's going to be published and released. So people know this day and time, I can expect this content, just like if I'm at Pro Force at this day and time, I know what to expect. So making a schedule, keeping a schedule is very important.
Somebody just asked, so is your Instagram content free for everybody?
Yeah, you can't, there's no way you can kind of monetize that. Our goal was, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks of it, then we could go into a Zoom and we could have you pay, and then I can send you the registration link after you've paid for it. So it could be something like we've talked about, is like $5, $10 a class, or if you have an active package with us, you get the Zoom link right away. That's a way you can monetize that instead of doing IG. I look at it as, when we all started a business, Brad, how many people did you train for free?
Almost everybody that walked in the door.
Exactly.
Until I was able to monetize.
Yeah. We're all starting a business right now. Train people for free. Everybody's training people for free online. So for you to ask for money, why? Yeah. So, I mean, we're even leveraging our pro guys to push content for us. You got to leverage everybody you have in your network, our club teams. So like when we post in our story, right? You post in your story that I'm going live at this time, we tag everybody under the sun so then they can reshare it. And it's just, that's your marketing. So you're just trying to get in front of as many people as possible. Same thing as step one. I'm back to step one. 6 years in, and right back to step one. So, and that's just how you have to look at it.
Well, and your step one, when you were giving those things away, you knew that eventually people would start paying. And
yeah,
this is not permanent. Like, we're not going to be shut down for the rest of our lives. So this is almost like like we've got a little ramp phase where you can do some things. So that makes sense. What about you, Brad? Any last words?
I think besides all the stuff that we've talked about, I think always look for silver linings, right? Great coaches, great athletes are adaptable. So it's our turn to be adaptable. We always ask our athletes to adapt to certain environments and certain things. But silver linings, like work on stuff that may be a weakness before in your business. Again, working in your business, versus working on your business. I also want to say, what a cool community we have as strength and conditioning coaches. You see the things out there, everybody giving stuff away for free, right? And trying to bring the community together and getting people to move and work out and sharing strategies with people all the time. I mean, you have like Science for Sport offering free memberships. You have free webinars like this one that's going on to help people in their businesses and outside their businesses. So just keep that in mind. Always look for silver linings. As Jim said, this isn't going to be forever. It's probably going to be over before we even know it, and we're going to be back hitting the pavement pretty fast. But just keep those things in mind, that there's always some good that comes out of something that's a difficult time for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys, thanks so much for your time. That was awesome. Hopefully everybody got something out of this. I took some notes. There's several things that we're going to work on, and I'm sure that everybody here has at least something that they can go do right now. We are having conversations constantly on IYCA Insiders, so if you're not a part of that, jump on there. If you have my email address, you can get a hold of one of these guys. If you don't know how, you can use Google to find these guys, or you can email me and I can get you in touch with them if you have specific questions. I'm getting some thank yous on here, and you're really, really welcome. Thank you guys so much. Good luck to everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay inside as much as you can. Don't do anything stupid right now. This is going to be over. And good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Kev.
Yeah, thank you.